2025, starting at 6 o'clock. Apologies for absence. Who's on councillor? Right, 2025 declarations of any disclosable pecuniary interest. Nope. Right, 21-25. Confirm the minutes of the Heritage and Events Committee meeting held on the 2nd of April 2025 as a true record and signed by the committee chair. So do we all agree the minutes of the last meeting? Yeah. Okay. I know soon. Right. 22-25. Report on the activities of the Heritage and Events team since the last meeting. So it's to receive a report on the activities of the Heritage and Events team since the last meeting. This is just to note the report from the Heritage and Events Manager and Deputy Town Clerk.
I'd like to sort of what we've tried to do is get a more consistency across the whole council. So some committees got activity reports, other committees didn't. And what we're doing now is trying to provide them uniformity so that at least the committee members get an understanding of some of the key issues that we had. I think this report has been the first one. We've had quite a change of personnel in the team. And really what we've been doing is we've been effectively doing an audit of all the activities, the processes, etc. And the idea of the report really is just to highlight some of the challenges that we do have going forward. We've got challenges in the bar, we've got challenges in the event bookings, we've got challenges in quite a few areas. So all we've done is just really documented these down. We have had a couple of occasions where, you know, for example, on the 12th of April, which is, I know it's a function close to someone's hearts in this room, you know, we came along, I came along to actually do an audit of the bar. Luckily, we did come along because there were just 2 staff members to serve in excess of 200 people. I've never worked so hard for quite a while behind the bar and getting that done, and we learned a lot from that. We've obviously had some other functions. I think at our last committee meeting, I think Councillor Stirrup actually mentioned the mayor's quiz and the fact that the queues were so long. And so part of that audit was to understand why that was happening, for example. The other thing we have is the risk profiling of events, the staffing of events. They really, we've had to have a really good look at that. So I'm starting to work with David as the new Heritage and Events Manager, and we're just going to start systematically going through all these challenges and resolving them so that we can start looking at the bigger issues. The one thing that we have done is we've recruited far more sessionals. At the beginning of April, we were told that we were in crisis. We put out adverts. I think we've now done more than 10 sessionals. Some of them are previous staff members that have come back. They didn't leave under any circumstances which would make it questionable. They've just come back. So we've got quite a few people. But it really is quite a challenge. So in reading the report, you'll get an understanding of some of the challenges that I call him New David still. I have to get out that habit, faces in terms of his management role. I don't know, Chief David would like, through you, if I can ask David if he just wants to add anything.
All I would like to add is that we are working extremely hard in this team. I will say it has been a very difficult first 7 weeks. If I could advise you on what the root issues were, I would. However, I do not think I have still got to the bottom of a lot of them. There are challenges in all areas. We are systematically going through them. I've divvied everything up into its own individual silos so that I can work on those sort of separately as well as all together as we move forward. However, I think it will all be very understanding that with V80 losing half of our team, not having a handover from the previous incumbent, we did extremely well and been working flat out and are still recovering from that. But just to echo what Alan said, everything that is seen as a current issue or a problem is fixable. Just need time and resources to do so. I'm very confident we will get there.
Thank you. Matt, can you say something?
Yeah, I think The first route to fixing a problem is through identifying it. So well done for going through and highlighting all these issues. I was completely unaware of them as well. So thanks for the time that would have taken. I think we need like a solid few months of sort of stepping back and not taking on too much to fix these problems so we don't keep overextending ourselves. Limited events, not too many bookings, get everything back in order, because there's going to come a point soon where we are trying to hand it over to the trust. We can't hand over a mess. It's going to be tough to start a trust as it is. We can't hand over a problem. My only thing is I just don't want us to start, if we can sort of be savvy with our decision making rather than start this habit of throwing money at it. Things like, you know, the first thing of those wall mounted optics for alcohol servings. Get a chicken, you know.
That's what we got.
Yeah, you know, it takes longer, or we can't just throw money at every single thing. Whereas something like the glass washers exceeded its life. If we need a new one, we will have to pay for one. It's cheaper to have a glass washer than a pot washer person. But well done for highlighting and finding all these things. I think that's the route to fixing them, and take as big a step back as we can and recalibrate with it all.
Okay,
Just in response to that, everything you said is absolutely our sentiment. However, we are somewhat, we already have so many bookings, so we can implement a stop, but that stop is too far in advance.
Not yet.
For us to be able to catch up. So currently, with what we do have, we are looking to honour everything that has previously been booked. And I'm sure as you read through that, you will understand perhaps booked incorrectly or to affect the town council's financial disadvantage. And that's something we're identifying and working on as we speak. But absolutely agree with what you said. That might just be somewhat out of our hands currently. It's about the start bookings. It's not your problem.
Vic.
Again, I'm pleased this is quite a comprehensive report, and there's just a couple of things really that I attended the Jersey Boys tribute, and the box office was a nightmare. We had nearly 300 people, and the door isn't opening any early, and they're all the way up the road, and there was a lot of genuine public complaints. That's something we will need to address, and once you've got something in there about the booking office, but I'm sure I've thought that was more the ticketing than the process of people arriving, because the doors are going to be open at 2:45 for a 7 o'clock show, and it's a popular show. They're going to be down the street, and that's not only is it causing rainfall with the attendees, but I'm sure some of the public were, you know, there's public there, they're in the road, they're doing, and it will cause an upset. So maybe that's what we need to look at and address. I'm glad to see that you put something in with the bar, and I do think that if we're on a tabled event rather than a chaired event, if the tables are numbered and pads are used, it's easier to serve the drinks at the tables rather than if there's not much space behind that bar. We can only get 2, maybe 3 in there. I'm delighted you said several pads, because all using the one pad was a nightmare. My other concern was when we'd done the mayor's ball. We knew there was going to be a few. We had staff, but we had no real caretaker staff at the end of it. So it was down really to Kate and myself. It wasn't down to me, but I'd volunteered it to step away sort of 150 tables and chairs, and it's a little bit of an ask for the civic officer to do. So when we look at sessional staff for park, and we also look at sessional staff for caretaker, and that can be combined with security, but we certainly need to look at caretaker, because if that stuff's got to be cleared away in the evening, it isn't fair to ask either our staff that comes to but or one of the officers, whoever is in attendance, to do that work. So it's just one of my observations.
To respond, so there's 2 really valid points. I think the Jersey Boys is a really good, it's a really good case study for us. They are hassling me to put their tickets on sale for next year. So again, high level sort of look at what happened there. They pay us £30 an hour and it doesn't cover the cost of our staff. We have 2 guys on there, we are losing money. So I could absolutely, and I'm working towards it, for us to staff events correctly, for to have front of house, and for our staff to be safe and secure whilst they are around 300 potentially drunk individuals. And I think on one of the most recent events we had walk-in strays who cannot be restrained. We have to either do a full-on ticket split, where we receive far more compensation for the work that our individuals are putting in, and to allow us to expand the team. Failing that, we will be looking at mass losses on any event where we open the bar. I do appreciate the bar take is something we should consider. However, it is not anything I'm going to put my name to in terms of generating income, guaranteed income, because it's not a guaranteed income for artists. Should be extra. Absolutely should be extra. We're having 300 people events with 2 0-hour bar staff working, and Alan and I have been running the numbers. We're looking at it. We should be having three bar staff minimum, so they can all have a break. We should be having front of house and we should be having security, but our costs go up exponentially. And at the minute, the rates we're charging, they should really solely be used for business use at off-peak times. And I will be bringing to you a plan of action moving forward as soon as I complete it. The second part, sorry, what was the second part? The caretaking, again, that falls into it. I set up and broke down 3 times over there. I'm sure you don't pay me to do that. No. But it is in all of our staff's job description that they support and they do set up. And one thing I'm looking at, and I have already implemented, is rotoring, changing the hours, not changing the hours, but moving the hours to facilitate certain events to ensure that we are not incurring additional costs from bar staff or caretakers, because at the minute we're bringing people into caretake 4 or 6 hours, and we may have a opportunity during that week. So we could take Olivia as an example, and she may have a quiet couple of days. So I would much rather move her hours to caretake, saving us money. But again, with only 2 members of staff, it's very difficult. But all is under consideration.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, so we're happy to note the report. Oh, sorry, Doug.
No, it's fine. I was just going to say, thank you for detailing things to have said. I think the report is really comprehensive and I appreciate it. The other thing I would just add is, and I think it sounds like you're doing it, feel free to prioritise. I think it's really important to get hold of it as soon as possible. I'm going to trust your judgment to what should be priority. I'm really alarmed by things like the drinks, like offering just not being there, because that's just leaving money on the table as well. So it feels like there's some quick fixes that I think we can prioritise while the full audit is going on. And if we can look to do that where possible, I think that'd be really beneficial.
Thank you. So is everyone happy to just note that report? Yeah. 23-25 calendar of future events. Discuss and review the calendar of town council planned events as at the date of this agenda. The decision required is to agree the events discussed and planned.
Okay, so
Doesn't mean it's the yellow ones that we're.
well, look, this again follows on from the previous. In all honesty, we gone through a number of events, as we see in the calendar of events here. Again, keeping it high level and looking at you for some direction. All of those in yellow, I have no evidence or proof that they have ever been worked on, discussed. Nothing is in our calendar. There is no information. We are looking at, and if I can speak freely, the Summertown event should have been started months and months ago. There is not a single bit of information that's been passed to me or I can find with regards to it. The split there of the money, again, nothing to indicate who was going to be involved, where it was going, what it was being spent on. And as I'm sure you can see, we've got 0 next to the Summertown event, so families, Freetown event with some ticketed items. the Midsummer Theatre takeover, again, no information around it at all. That would have cost quite a substantial amount of money out of that 3,000 budget, so I don't understand the thinking behind that. The Heritage Open Days, we do have a plan of as such, but again, we should have been registered quite a while ago. And to my understanding, I've got meetings with the individuals who put it all out in the brochures and inform everybody. I've got quite a lot of work to do to ensure that we're able to even be a part of it or to be promoted. Christmas lights switch on and the other civics, look, absolutely, we will be going ahead. We will be having meetings. We will be planning and that will be coming back to you. But we really wanted to highlight the fact that there are so many events that had been talked about, had been added to the diary, and there is no evidence that they ever existed. So it leaves me in some sort of quandary.
Doug, then Matt.
Just a sense check and make sure I'm reading it all correctly. Essentially, they're in the calendar, but with no work's been done on them. They've not been booked. No tickets have been sold. In a sense, we've got free rein. We can say scrap them.
That is the
And say we want you to go ahead and do them.
absolutely positive is we can start from scratch. The negative is time is now against us.
Yeah.
On all fronts, apart from VJ Day and Christmas. And again, with 2 members of staff, we are limited to what we can do, considering we still have a full calendar of events outside of this within the building.
And just follow up, can I then check therefore is essentially the £3,000 that's been budgeted for the Midsummer Theatre, etc.
I perhaps wrote that wrong, so it doesn't display. I've only just noticed that. However, my understanding is theatre companies don't come for free.
I'm sure they can. But essentially, I don't think that £3,000 is still in our budget.
It's still in our budget. We can use it for a summer event. We just need to get moving and get going on it because it's booked in for the last week of August. We're entering June in a couple of weeks. That gives us realistically 6 weeks to get something done and dusted, and then 6 weeks to promote it. Otherwise, it will not get the reach it requires.
Cool, thanks.
Matt.
Yeah, I'm actually a bit embarrassed if was given to you like this. I can point blame, but it'd be useful to anyone. So really sorry about that, first of all. I think we don't really have a choice, but to, I'm happy for everyone to shout at me and tell me it's the wrong thing, but to hand the reins sort of over to yourself, Alan and Sonia, and basically if you say it can't be done, scrap it. Don't waste time hours trying to sort I think we've probably, the children's half-term disco. If there's nothing ready now, and it's a week and a few days away,
Never been ready.
you can't divert staff resources. It's next Friday. You can't divert staff resources and money to get something like that done in a week. Drop it. And I am fine, and I hope we're about to vote, I don't know, but I'm okay to give the onus in like these instances for anything that's yellow to sort of maybe come back to us and be like, it can't go ahead. We're going to have to scrap it. The other thing was, I just have two of the other quick things. One was, do you know, slight detour to the rest of the agenda item. The VE Day 80, just to note down, we budgeted 12 grand. How much did we come in at in the end? Because Sonia was worried we were over. You said we were on track. Which one of you right? Who's buying the coffees?
If I can comment, I was processing payments this morning and there was sweat pouring down my brow. There were a lot of costs that came in. Some of them are not that significant. It's really just to look at our additional income that we had. So we did have additional income. There were store fees that were paid. The bar was quite successful. So hopefully there's some money there. But we won't be able to, I'll probably be able to feedback at hopefully at the next corporate services meeting. I know it doesn't help the members that aren't on corporate services, but at least put something on the record as to how much, what the net impact is. But the costs just come through very, very slowly. We're dealing a lot with individuals, and invoicing is not there as important to them as it is to us, for example. So I would hate to mislead the committee, so I'm going to sit on the fence and stay sitting on the fence on that one.
What part?
Around 12?
I think
what we made was good.
Okay,
I think the costs were higher than 12, but I think the revenue was also higher than expected.
I will take that. And my last point, it's actually on number 3, which is future planning, but that's quite a segue away. So do you want to do some other people first and I'll come back? Thank you.
Okay, Carmen's next.
I understand how this has been planned, as you say. But for example, the ones in September, Heritage Open Days is something that is a recurrent event. Is there a degree of involvement of the museums and things that are in other entities that already participate in this, that perhaps already the groundwork done for it? And we should sort of have to catch up with the remaining of the organizing, or are we completely blank slate?
So my understanding is historically we have organised and included other partners. I mean, sure, you may very well know a little bit more than I do. And there is a group or committee or someone that we register with, and it goes out. And so they have emailed me. Not really heard anything about it leading up to it. So no work has been done prior to me joining at all, as far as I'm aware. It is on my very long list of things to ultimately through partners, understanding if there is a want and a need, and I believe there is. It's just I do not think we will again be able to deliver what we have done historically, which I understand was very, very good. So it is a concern to me.
That was sort of a week long sort of
Yeah.
stream of different activities with local, different entities by taking part in it. And if we're just going to scrap the whole thing altogether.
The idea is not to scrap it. Apologies. It's not to scrap it. The idea is that we have got something in mind. However, it will not reach the high ceilings that have resulted in awards being won previously. We do not have the type of individuals within the business anymore that can deliver such an event. However, that's not to say going forward these events cannot be delivered. It's just going to have to be through a different route.
Okay, thank you.
Vic,
Yeah, sorry, I, because I'm a bit slow sometimes. Children's Disco at the end of the month. I'm assuming there's been no advertisement. There's been no ticket sales.
Doesn't exist.
Then we can't possibly put that on because we don't have enough time to get the message out there, get it advertised. So we can't possibly put that one on. Then we go to August. You got the Wizarding Workshop and a Wizarding Afternoon Tea. Ticket sales. Yeah, we know the individuals who had done them, and it was quite successful, but there wasn't massive events for us. I think there was a massive income. We could, in early August, do an afternoon tea of such, not necessarily a Wizarding one, but we could do a special afternoon tea thing in the tea rooms if they're available still, because we might have the banking hub, I believe, but we could still do something around that. Again, it's staffing, but with sessional staff, we might be able to get by on that one. So certainly one of them could go, but the other one, I think we don't have the staff, as you said. The Midsummer Theatre, again, it's the people before. You got I think the 3,000 is for the summer event, isn't it? Not for that.
It appears it's split between the two.
Okay. Well, I mean, we can still work on the summer event, and obviously, if I'm sure others would help with stuff that needs doing. But it depends on staff time again, of course. And we may have to use some sessional staff for that. But we do need to put something on in the summer because we had that success last year. We do need to have something, even if it's not as adventurous. We do need to do something. And October half term, it hasn't even got any ideas of what it is. So maybe that could go. But I'm just looking at it individually. The idea that we can actually put them on, I think, is a bit. But all of that is a bit pie in the sky. We're not going to be able to do that.
Doug, Matt, Matt, did you want to come back in after Doug?
Yeah, might like the last.
Okay.
It won't be about this bit, so I'll wait.
All right, Doug, and then David, did you want to come back in after?
I was just going to say, again, trying to give you an understanding from my perspective. There has been no work done on the summer event, and it's also been booked in the same day we have a wedding here. So it's even more issues to overcome, because that absolutely would have been seen. We work off of a Teams up calendar that has all of the events that are there. So scheduling, I don't know, I'm not sure yet if we can move that, if that is a hard and fast date. If it isn't, great, brilliant, we'll bring it forward, and we will not need overly additional staff that are going to be required to cater for the wedding and function here and a summer event on the same day. So
I don't think that's practical.
it's absolutely not
It
practical.
needs to be flexible on the day. 6 weeks summer holiday, it doesn't matter. It hasn't got to be a set date, is it? It's as long as something happens.
I come in at this point because I'm going to actually say conversely, and I sort of agree. I think to can we pass back to you, what can you do, and you can present. Firstly, though, I love the fact we actually have a calendar, and I really like the fact we're going to talk about a future calendar, because I think that's what I've been asking for since this committee started. Personally, though, I disagree about the summer event. I like the idea of the summer event. I think, yes, it's important. We've got another event we'll be doing, which is DJ Day, which is slightly different, and I'm wondering if we use the budget for that and tie those two together or something like that. And actually, just in terms of this event calendar, everything in yellow, pretty much apart from heritage, we say goodbye to. We essentially use this as a reset point. We said VE Day was going to be our big thing. I think it was a success. I think we did a huge thing on that. I don't feel the need to just try and do an event because we feel we need to do an event. If it's not planned and we're going to have to sort of sacrifice a future planning session to do it, I'd rather us get our ducks in a row and move forward personally.
Carla, and then Viola and Stuart.
It was once, and it is too tight of deadline to get everything done in there that hasn't been planned. So absolutely agree, can't do them all. Certainly not the disco because it was too close to, to one of this meeting. I think we can do something with some of the things in there if we sort of juggle with the content of the event and the dates, but giving us enough time to prepare. For example, I'm not going to be here right away. It's something I spoke to Vic between the 4th of August and the 3rd of September. So the whole month of August, I'm not here. I'm away taking care of my family member. So VJ Day, Vic's gonna carry the hat for me as a mayor. Yeah, so I won't be here in August. I'll be doing most of the events I can before and after that, but not in August I can't. But it is usual to have a summer event. Families are, the kids are off school. It's a long time. People want something to do during the summer, otherwise they get bored. So for me, it makes sense to have something in summer. It doesn't have to be a date set in stone. If you have a wedding, or can always be rearranged. And what the ground there, and put some activities just for families with young children, just to keep them occupied during the summer, because I think that's important locally for the residents. And then I'll leave the heritage open days now for you to sort of look into. But if you look at there's an opening there for the October half term, that doesn't say what it is. So it's completely open. So instead of doing something rush now in June, July, August, we can then pick an idea, use the after October and plan it. Gives us from here until October to do something with more, structured for the community, especially do 2 events structured at good times of the year where people is available will attend, than to do 5 or 6 small size that will have no attendance. That's my perspective.
You want to respond?
Just a quick response to that. We will do a summer event and we will have something for the Heritage Days. The real issue is understaffed. Nothing has been done previously already. So we have a very finite time where we may, I'm not saying there won't be anybody that is available, but a lot of the people that we're looking for or potentially will be bringing in, it's their busiest time of the year, and it's similar to the issues we had towards the end of VE80 in trying to get people there at such short notice. I would love to have, and my team would have loved to have been working on this already. However, the last, as you can imagine, the last 6 weeks have been VE80 priority to ensure that was facilitated and delivered to what we believe was a very high standard and went down extremely well with the residents of Thetford. The aspiration is that the Summertown event follows suit on a much smaller scale, and we will break our backs to deliver something for the residents of Thetford over the course of a week or a few days. I'm just not willing to promise anything today due to the lack of time being able to spend on it.
And Violet.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of what I'm thinking has already been said in this room, but I do think that we need to do something in the summer because there's an expectation, you know, all the years I've lived in Thetford, I think there's been something, and I can just imagine you know, everyone saying horrible things about the council and that kind of thing if we don't. But obviously I appreciate the, you know, situation you're in. So it's not very helpful in terms of suggesting what we actually do, but something family orientated at some point in August, I think. I'd be inclined to get, all the smaller things, the half-term things, the Heritage Open Days as well, which sounds like you're also prioritising the event and the Heritage Open Days, which is basically what I was going to say. So fine, but
Stuart.
I think I'm not saying anything much to what you said, but I think I'll give David the free rein now to say, you know, your steer is to try and give us a summer event, pare back everything you can. We're appreciative of the lack of staff and capacity, both of volume of people, but also the skills that those people who have left had, who were able to deliver those in the past. So a summer event of some kind, I think we all agreed with, we'd love to see that happen. Heritage Open Days, I'm quite happy to just share my knowledge with that. And, you know, it's very much registering, I can't remember the dates in that, talking to the various partners. It's coordination rather than us delivering. We have delivered some bits and pieces in the past, but we don't necessarily have to do that. Our biggest thing is usually the regalia, having that on display. And usually get volunteers of the councillors to come and just man that for an hour or so and talk about it, because it's still a wow factor for people to see it. Used to have the council chamber with all the mayors around there. Obviously, we don't have that today, but we do have some bits and pieces to do with Julep Singh, which we've displayed in here. So I think we've got enough to put on something without us breaking the bank in terms of putting money towards it. But I'm quite happy to have a chat outside this to see what we can do. But I think because it's such a good draw from people outside Thetford, it goes across East Anglia, and we historically have people who wouldn't normally come to Thetford come to see the things on Heritage Days. I'm really keen that we continue having that presence.
Your offer is appreciated and greatly accepted. Thank you.
Can I just go with the summer event? We haven't got to go all singing, all dancing because we haven't got the ability to do it. But there are groups out there that would be willing to come along and do stuff. And if we had, I mean, it's quite easy to set up the music nights, which they used to do. And usually get relatively simple systems. You haven't got to pay for massive sound systems and all that because it's not permeating everywhere. And maybe put a couple of markets in there. But, I don't know. But I'm willing to give you a bit of time if you want, with some ideas. I'm sure most people would be willing to email in a couple of ideas of stuff that's cheerful, that gets them in.
Greatly appreciated and greatly accepted. So any and all help and direction from historic events that have worked and perhaps what hasn't would be really appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, Matt, did you want to come in with your point?
Yeah, just taking on to that last bit, I don't want anyone staff-wise and self-included to feel bad if you do have to scrap some of them off and if you do have to pare back to summer event. We did an amazing VE day. It was phenomenal work by the staff for the town. If as a result of that we do a slightly smaller summer heritage, that's fine. I will be happy making that argument to anyone who'd question me that you can't have everything. You had a great summer, you had a great VE day. No one knows the amount of hours that went into doing that. And we're still going to give you something. It might not be as big, grand, singing, dancing fireworks as it was last time. That's fine, you don't get it all. But moving on, number 3, future planning. It says there's to rethink it's not expected at this meeting, it's just sort of spitballing. But and I know we've got an agenda item later on, you know, so I'm not going to talk too much on the event itself, but in my opinion, and a lot of people I spoke to, I think it was a roaring success. I think it was a phenomenal day. We'll cover that later on. But I think the one thing I've heard more than anything is, can we do it again? Can we do it again? I don't think people realise how expensive and how much man went into it. However, I do think the idea of how we structure our events going forward, it has made me think of that, because I don't see why we can't do 2 big events a year and that is it. One on Melford Common in a yearly party in the park. The problem is as well, I know 12 grand was a lot and we can't afford that every time. A lot of that was down to hiring things on something as big as V80. They put the prices up. Toilets won't cost that much outside of V80. A band won't cost that much outside of an event. It's like the moment they saw Thetford Town Council V80, they put the prices up. I don't blame them, smart business. But that's not going to happen next year or the year after. We can do it for a bit cheaper. I really think we need to do one party in the park event a year, and then one other event on the market square, like we do Whitsun or the Summer Heritage event, things like that. And that's it. I think we need to sort of pull it back, and then the rest of the year, we've got Christmas, we've got Remembrance, and I know Remembrance isn't a party, but it's a town gathering event. We've got the light switch on, we've got Remembrance, we have things like Battle of Britain, the civic receptions, all that stuff. I think there's enough to really just have our staff focus on doing 2 big events a year that we choose, and then the rest of the year is stuff that naturally comes on the calendar anyway. That is my 2 pence.
Okay, thank you. Carla, do you want to come back?
Just a question. I know that the Wetland Council is organising the Thetford Communities Festival middle of August. The reason why I know is because I came up with the concept initially. We were going to do something as my mayorship to fundraise for the charities, but once they were doing the festival, there was no point in doubling or putting 2 things too close together, so I dropped that. So I was just wondering if there's any update on that. I think it was on the 8th of August, but I'm not sure of which date it picked. But it falls in the beginning of August, so that's something that would sort of give something for the community to do as well. So I wonder if there's any updates on that side as well.
Not from me.
No.
Nothing that you are aware of that you will participate in.
Could you just repeat what it was called, sorry?
There's this festival.
No, nothing at all. I mean, I'm in contact with,
I've also on the Wetland Councils being organised.
I will look into that.
For an update on it.
Right. So the decision requires, oh, sorry, Doug, I keep missing you. You have to wait a little.
Right. I was just say, and I don't know if we're going into that future planning point, it was slightly annoying that Matt said exactly what he just said, because to be honest, I was going to say exactly the same thing in it now. But just repeat yourself, it's fine. I will repeat it, because yeah, I sat back and I think I messaged to a couple of people separately that I actually think that's the way we should go. I think the past few years we've done a variety of sort of 3-day, 4-day events and spread ourselves too thin. I actually think that putting everyone together, that's what we wanted to achieve. I thought it was delightful, and I really do think that's what we should look to do in the future. Going forward is focus our efforts on a big gathering. That was going to be my 2 pennies worth to join.
Okay. No, that's good. Right, so how do we phrase this if we've got to, because it says to agree the events discussed and planned. We're not agreeing them, are we?
I think so. You have given us, if I can,
Yeah,
you have given us some direction, so we will.
is that enough?
That's fine.
Okay.
We're not asking for a formal resolution. It'd be
Okay,
unfair
right,
to expect that.
that's good, because I wasn't good. So, right, we can move on then. Right, 24-25, to receive and discuss the financial report for the year ending 31st of March 2025. And again, just note. Over to you, Alan.
Trying to understand the historical financial information, I've been on a roller coaster ride. There were times if I went back a year ago, I didn't understand what all the finances were. And I've spent so much time during the year, right up until October, November, trying to understand the finances of what was happening. We had certain costs sitting in certain cost centres, we had revenue sitting in other cost centres, they weren't unbundled. So I've spent a lot of time unbundling them. And going forward, what I've done is I've actually restructured the whole chart of accounts going forward. But it's very difficult to keep doing that analysis work. So, for example, the analysis that I did in October, I think it was, September and November, I just haven't been able to repeat that because it takes quite a bit of time, and the accounting records aren't giving that information. Just to put it into perspective, it takes about 3 or 4 days just to prepare the analysis because you keep having to regurgitate information. I think one of the things that we did learn is that what events work for us, what events don't work for us. We can't be promoters. I think that came out very clear in the financial analysis that we did. Partnership events have to be very carefully structured. We did partnership events that cost us money. We actually paid someone £600 just to do a partnership event with them, things like that. And I think the analysis helped us do that. I haven't repeated it in this particular analysis. I've done a very conventional financial report. You can see the revenue. It looks like we've done fantastically well because our income is 96,000. We only budgeted 44,000. But if you look at the expenditure side, you've got the converse situation. We spent 362,000, but we only budgeted 210,000. And that really was over the timing of the establishment of the Carnegie Guildhall charity. We were hoping to have that established on the 1st of October 2024. I must have been on cloud 9, or I must have put something in my coffee because we're not even close to it yet. We're still doing a lot of preparatory for that. So that really was the main reason for that. The other thing that we did is we've obviously started to allocate out the salaries and wage costs and some of the overhead costs. That is quite difficult. For example, there's only 3 or 4 business rates assessments for this whole complex. So to try and bundle that is quite difficult because we have one business rates assessment that covers the Carnegie Hall and part of this building. So what I've done is I've tried to focus on what we can do next year, the 25-26 year, because that's when we start making sense of it. I think the other thing that we've done is, and you, David, has been really working on that, is what is the true cost of putting on an event? What does it cost to have someone in this building? And what are our risks and mitigation for that? And I think that those costs always, got lost. So, like I say, my financial report talks more about the future, what we are going to do than what has happened. Those numbers are there, that they're fairly fixed and concrete. If I unbundle them, I could do that. And like I say, I've just taken the decision, and I hope you won't call me lazy, but for doing that, by not doing, 3 or 4 days of analysis on it. But overall, the finances are what the finances are. Yeah. That's it.
Right. Any comments? Oh, Doug.
Just to check as well that a big chunk of the expenditure, the additional expenditure, is salaries. That's the single biggest chunk, isn't it? Yeah.
I think if I can respond to it, if we go back to the 1st of May or the 5th of May 2023, when this new council came into being, the Heritage and Events team was the biggest team by far, and over time that has diminished. It's now one of the smaller teams. The community and environmental services team has grown, etc. It's now getting the rebalance of that right, because I think we've probably gone from overstaffed to understaffed and finding that middle balance. But the middle balance has to pay for itself. At the end of the day, we can't have staff working conventional 37-hour contracts when all the activities that we do is after hours and weekends. We were having people sitting in the office Monday to Friday, and then we were hiring sessionals to work Saturday, Sunday, because there was, the normal employed staff had worked their time. So it's just getting that right. And I think we are on the way to doing that. In terms of the activities report, there's some issues to address, but I think it will come right.
Thanks. Yeah, I think it feels like it's hard to comment on the financial report because it's just because of what you say.
Yes.
And hopefully looking forward into the future, we'll begin to see a thing where we can actually be informed, because at the minute I'm just like, there's nothing that I can make a judgment on, but yeah.
It's just
yeah.
Okay, so no other comments. So we're happy to just note the financial report. Yeah. Good. Right, 25-25, to review and update the action points brought forward from previous heritage and events meetings.
This used to be the time of the agenda that I used to hate, because this list used to get longer and longer and longer. And every time I came to a meeting, I had to apologize. But as you can see, we actually are starting to make some progress. The VE Day is certainly complete. There's an issue around one of the hirers that we still need to sort out where I think we were very unfair that I need to brief new David on. But you'll see at the bottom there, we've actually made some quite good progress. And I'm sure over the next few months, this list will disappear in respect of old, long outstanding items, and only new items will appear in it.
Anyone want to comment on that, Doug?
Just the town council volunteers recognition get together. I seem to recall that being discussed a long time ago, and then I'm not sure. It feels like nothing's been done on it, and I'm just thinking, are we doing anything for it now? Is it a case of actually it's one of those many things that we sort of haven't really got time to sort? What?
We planned that. So if I we planned that for July 2025. So we planned it. We didn't plan it. We said it would take a year.
I'm sorry.
It is, but
I was just joking. You said that. I thought we are in 2025, aren't we?
yes. It's one of those things that are there. I think it was really working out how we were going to do it, and I think there were some suggestions in the minute that actually said, we just have to work out what function we have as the council that we could actually latch that onto it. I think that was the discussion that the committee made last year. Rather than just trying to have a function for the sake of the function, it was latching it onto something.
Again, we've sort of not done that as such.
We haven't identified that yet, and it does need to be. I'll look at my new heritage and events manager and transfer the monkey from my back to his.
Bear in mind, other challenges can understand if it sort of is hard to do. It'd be nice to, I think, to do something to recognise volunteers, but at the same time, conscious that there's other challenges. So.
If I may just come in, I think Thetford and Bloom is possibly one of the opportunities we have to do that. So if we can see how we do at Thetford and Bloom, it would be fantastic. If we do reach our aspiration, use that occasion to recognise the volunteers, because I think that's where they've really made a significant contribution and effort to the council.
I noticed the bottom one with the update on the Thetford price is completed. I may have missed it somewhere. What the final outcome? Because I mean, the last meeting we said that we wasn't going to let them have everything. Certainly wasn't going to use the marketplace. But since that meeting, I've not really heard anything. What's happening with price damage? I'm aware that because obviously my son does sound, and they've asked him to do the sound, but they don't want to.
We have said out everything that the committee resolved. I wrote a letter to Thetford Pride, and I've had telephone discussions with them. They are fully aware and accept the terms and conditions that we set.
So they're not using
going anywhere near the marketplace.
for now using the Guildhall.
They're using the complex and the Carnegie.
Tenants, not in partnership.
Yeah, separate. I mean, we've had issues around them claiming that we're in partnership. We've resolved all those, and I don't find them on my social media, but if I did see them on my social media, they would.
I don't see them on my social media at all. I was only asking because I'm not sure what came out, and it may have been discussed at other committees that I've missed.
We've resolved that this particular committee, they're on full commercial rates, and if they want support, they have to apply for a small grant. That's been made clear to them. They're not a constituted organisation, so to my understanding, so they can't apply for a small grant yet.
Okay, and I'm assuming they're still doing the march through the town.
They're
organising all that.
We have said to them they have to have safer action group sign off, and that's part of the conditions. Unfortunately, if they do it, it's not our land, So, but we would then report to Brenton Council and their safer action group to actually make them aware that was taking place. And they also understand our position to do that. We can't sit back and do nothing if they're actually breaching licensing rules and cool.
And again, do we have enough staff to cover this?
That's
Possibly not, but hopefully that will be rectified. Just to go back to your first point, we have treated this as we would any other hire as per the direction of the last committee.
Absolutely, that's what we said at the last meeting. They're the same as anything.
They've looked as standard. We will advise, as Alan mentioned, however they are higher up to us, and we will treat them with the
due professionalism that we would aim at.
I wouldn't expect anything else. It's, yeah. Thank you.
So we've done that, haven't we? Reviewed and updated. Right, 26-25 Remembrance Sunday event. To establish a working group to plan Remembrance Sunday event and to fully understand the role of the council in coordinating and leading the event. So we need to establish a working group for this.
If I may, Chair, just to, sorry, it was RBLs are in a very difficult position. The RBL Thetford branch is different to the RBL club that runs the premises next door to us. They're in administration, I understand. We're unlikely to get any support. It's really a matter of the council understanding what role it wants to play, what it would like Remembrance Sunday to look like from a council perspective, and to ensure that that gets implemented. That's my understanding. So, sorry, I know a couple of people.
Last year we done a lot of work on it, on the working party, and we actually have a folder somewhere. Are you aware of the folder? We have a folder somewhere which is basically lays out everything that there is. It should have been done where the invitations have been out for people. I'm aware that the band is actually booked
And paid for.
and paid for, but anything else, as far as I'm aware, that hasn't been done. So we do need to get onto that one pretty quickly. I'm happy to sit on that working group. I know, maybe I shouldn't speak on his behalf, but I know Matt McDonald has already said that he would. He done the donkey share and work last year. So, but we do need to get onto that speed.
Matt and Stuart.
Thank God I wasn't a volunteering for the working group.
That's what we put you down for.
I was also gonna volunteer Mac could go on it as well. I think another two of you did work really hard. If we can just aim to mirror what we did last year, that would be great. I don't think we need to try and top it. I would need to go
Do
bigger.
anything more than what we've
I
done.
think last year was just, it was perfect. You know, I think that Remembrance Day is one of the proudest events in our calendar, and one of the reasons I'm incredibly proud of being a councillor. I don't think we need to top it. I think we just need to get it as close as we can as we did last year.
But the only thing that was wrong last year was we didn't have the information as to who should be invited and the precedent of which it should be done. But other than that, everything else I think went perfectly well.
Thank you. Stuart, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I think following on what Vic said, Mac did a hell of a lot of stuff last year, and I thought documented a lot of the procedures and things. So there should be copies of BAM. If there aren't, then I suspect Mac may have some copies that we could copy and bring them up to the event wheel. But a lot of the work was done last year. Just in terms of the RBL branch and the standard, as Alan has said, it's correct that the branch is in administration, which means they have no access to there's no branch. Basically, head office in Norfolk holds the standard. We can request a standard, and I think it would be right to do so, to have the Thetford RBL standard present on there, but it needs us to contact the Norfolk branch, and they will detail somebody to bring that standard down. They won't let us have it on our own or anybody from the club to do it. It needs to be somebody from RBL Norfolk, and I think we need to have that there just to give a little bit more kudos to the event. And then following on to the march past, the one thing I would like to see is the councillors supporting the mayor on the dais taking the salute. It was something that I was very proud to support the council doing that over the years, and obviously our new mayor will be up there, and I would like to see us be able to support, not on the dais, but obviously just around it, which we've done in the past.
Sorry, Vic, did you want to come back in there?
No, not really. It's just about the standard, really. There is no standard at the moment at all. Thetford doesn't have a standard, and they don't even have a union flag they could do. So it will be, as you said, they have to go to request it from request. As far as Mac's concerned, before this evening came on the agenda, I mentioned to so I can't remember where I mentioned it to one of the staff that we need to get a meeting, and Met has said that we can make after 4:30 next week. But it's a matter of what days because you're busy. It'll be very quick to get a date from them.
Just a couple of things. Again, I don't want to be on the working group, so I'm saying now to get up. I completely agree with Stuart. I think I remember my first year we did that, didn't we? We stood around and it felt, I did feel a bit of imposter syndrome, everyone sort of saluting at us. But it felt great to be part of that, you know, and then but last year we didn't do it. So I absolutely agree. I think that should be part of it. You know, if I have my, the first, whilst last year's was phenomenal, it was a great job and credit where credit's due. The first year I did like a little bit more that we were on the steps and then we joined on the square rather than we're the march the whole way up. Because it just feels a bit, the first year we do remember is we waited on the steps here, then we just walked down and stood in the market square. We didn't do that last year.
No.
We were part of the parade. And I just feel like we took out, everyone else was there because they're serving or in groups, and you know, I was elected by like 40 people and I'm marching in a shade. It's a bit like, oh, I don't know, it's made me feel like, well, I'd rather we stood on the steps and walked in again. And the only other thing I have to ask is can we just logistically, it ended last year, we walked back down of the parade, we walked near the river past the Nationwide and we just stopped. And it was like, well, it's over now. And we also just looked around and we were all like, is that it? Are we done? And then luckily Max stood up on the raised flower bed and sort of addressed everyone. So if we could, we have a starting point, but if we could also just focus on an end point as well, that would be great.
Explain both of them. It came up, there was a lot of positive comments that the council were actually marching with the parade. The general public seemed to feel that was a good thing. But I get your point about taking the salute with the mayor. I get that, and that might be something that we have to look at, or it will be something we look at. As far as the marching with that does seem to be popular rather than, because it seems quite aloof. To we just wait here like the hoity-toity. We wait here. They all do the march, and we just come on and do our little bit. There is the caveat that if people are not well enough to march, they can join at the thing. So that was very well received by the public. But I get the point about the dais, and that's something that we'll discuss. And I think that, I'm inclined to agree on it as well. But it was very much a test and see last year, because even more than this year, we had no information, we had no assistance from the RBL. They were more interested in selling the poppies. There wasn't really interest in the organisation. They promised so much and they delivered so little. So it will be down to us, I'm afraid, to do it. And that was the reason why everything was put in to documents last year, so that we can go, that's what you do. And the only thing we haven't done this year is got ahead of the curve and started to do the invites and stuff like that, but we will.
Carla, did you want to say something?
Just to laugh at my page, basically. But yeah, it's because of the amount of work we went in, mostly credit to you and Mac, because it wasn't you guys started to go to the work, especially Max, very organized in that. And we did have a plan. Who's going to where? Who's going to stand where? What's the order of the parade? All of that's been done, and it is on some track record somewhere. I'm sure we'll find it. And that was this final guideline for going forward this year. I don't mind the parades as such. I agree that the end was a bit of an anticlimax. So Max standing up, sort of saving the situation by giving it closure. I think it was lacking closure towards the end of the parade. When in regards to standing, being the mayor standing on the stage, I personally, and as a mayor, I would prefer to default to what it was before. I don't see a point in me standing there by myself. I think we're a collective, we work together, and I would like my councillors to stand there. It's just a personal opinion. I will go with whatever to do with the race.
Stuart, do you want to?
Yeah, just back on some points Matt raised, and I won't dwell on too much, but I think they covered it, that, you know, we just cobbling it together as best we could. the idea you would normally have a parade marshal to take you down to the end, and he would give the orders to say, right, everybody's dismissed now to do their thing.
Go home now.
I think the idea last time was to wait for the mayor to give his thanks to those who are there, and Chris got held up.
Yes.
And so that didn't come to pass. So I think it's a learning thing that we can probably take
wasn't
forward.
right, to be honest.
So a person in charge of that parade needs to be down there to say, thank you very much, you're now dismissed, and so they can get, otherwise they just hang around. What do we do now? What do we do now? Yeah, until that fixture is done. That shouldn't be Mac this year, he should be with us. But we need to identify somebody who could fulfil that role. As I said, it was held up because Chris didn't make it down there, and in the end, Mac just.
We did have, but he didn't do half of what he said he was going to do, and that's half the problem.
So I think we learned.
Okay, the recommendations for this to agree with council's role in Remembrance Sunday, which I think we've done, that council will take charge, you know. Establishing a working group, it's suggested 3 councillors. So 3 councillors, heritage and events manager and civic officer to plan the event. We've had 2 volunteers. Does anyone else willing to volunteer to go on the working group?
I don't know how much I can put into it, but I said we will follow most of the meetings because actually I need to know what you guys want me to do basically for online as a mayor. It'd be useful for me to be in it. So I'll join up. I don't know if I can make every meeting, but I'll join.
Okay, so that would be, so we've got 3 councillors. And the worker party will provide updates to the committee regarding the event. Oh, right, we need a proposer for the, do we have to do them individually? So, so do we have a proposer for that? Matt, seconder? All in agreement? Yeah, okay. Next one, 27-25 preparations for VJ 80 day. Discuss the preparations for VJ 80 day on the 15th of August.
Yeah, so obviously we have VJ Day on August the 15th. It is the 80th year anniversary. Ultimately, my understanding of what has been done historically is limited due to the fact that nobody of my team has worked at the council for longer than 7 months. I have been liaising with other colleagues who have been providing me with some information. My understanding is that it has been pretty low key, has been pretty quiet. It has been relatively solemn with reflying at the FUPAL and perhaps the inclusion of some local figures. Previously, I understand we've had some vicars or some priests that have been there. What I'm looking for, or what I'm expecting is that off of the back of the success from VE80, that there may be an expectation that it is somewhat grander this year, with it being the 80th year anniversary. So we have put in a few possible ideas that we could utilise on the day to make it somewhat a bit more of a marquee day. But it's just trying to understand from yourselves whether or not that is something that you would like, or if historically it has been solemn and it has been low key, is for a specific reason, and we want to adhere to that and continue in that vein. So that's where we're at.
Stuart, then Vic.
Yeah, I think BJ Thetford's always, because as the Forgotten Army was there, and it always doesn't get the attention it deserves. And you're right, this year, 80th anniversary, we need to do something a little bit more. And I'm working with the Pearson family to get a couple of benches put down by the FUPAL tree, and a heritage plaque, which hopefully will get them violent before then. For those that were on here in 2023, we did get this agreed through Community Environment Services. They've just asked if the benches can be facing the river rather than face back to the road. So other than that, it's exactly the same. So hopefully we'll put a revised plan so that that's everybody knows what's happening. So that will be something down there. But I think you need the solemnness of the service down at the tree. Because of where it is and the roads, it's not ideal to do a mass gathering down there. But it is the end of the war. not just it's the end of the whole war, and we need to, commemorate, celebrate that. Some of the historical notes of what was happening on VJ Day, it was such a relief. Norfolk and Suffolk soldiers were out captured when Singapore went down, so we've got a local connection there, which we need to do a little bit more about as well. But I think the idea of some kind of street party on Marketplace would be that something that could be delivered, giving people a little bit more oomph to VJ Day, because at the moment having the service stand by the tree isn't going to do it to bring it to the masses.
I know that there is protocol that we have to follow. The government has already put that through, the protocol we'll follow during the day. I've read the 4 bullet points, and I think they're brilliant, because it will give it a little bit more emphasis to what it is. I will suggest we write to the regiment. We're going to have to write to them anyway, to invite them to Armistice, because that hasn't been done yet. Write to the regiment, see if they're willing to send a few, not the regiment, but a few volunteers to that event. We could write to the cadets and ask if they would, and the scouts, and I'm sure they would as well. Aside the fact that they might be at school, but obviously they can't feel at school, they will let us know if they can or can't attend, and that will address the uniforms. Veteran organisations, I don't think we've got any, which is a shame. I think we should, but also ask the ex-service club, because they're supposed to be veterans as well. A musical tribute with a bugle, a pipe. The pipe was quite easy to get hold of. We should have a bugle for the silence anyway. But again, that will either come from regiment or whoever. I don't know who we use, but that should be fairly easy to do. Flags and bunting would be a great idea. Set them up the day before, so at least we know they're there. And a light touch engagement with a short reading, maybe a poem and a historical reflection would be brilliant. I'm sure we could get someone, maybe someone from one of the schools to do a reading. They will probably allow that now, but it's all stuff we'd need to investigate. But that, to me, would be brilliant, because that would make the event so much more high profile than what it has been in the past. Because normally it's just like half a dozen people turn up, a couple of videos, they do a little bit for song and a thing here, do national anthem, the silence, and they're all bugger off, and then nothing afterwards. As for actually doing an event on the square, we could do something in the evening. I'm sure we've got a couple of young local artists that could just put the tent up, do a sing song, a bit like we did on the trailer, but obviously a lot smaller. Maybe Sam, maybe very young Charlie might volunteer to do something. I don't know how much to charge, but they could do that, and we could just put that on, open the tea rooms up for the bar. We haven't got to put refreshments on or anything like that, but we could invite refreshment stands, which isn't going to cost us. We should charge them really to come and attend. I think it's not difficult to do. It's just getting in as soon as possible. And I agree, we should. One of the things when we originally went into the VE Day planning, all of the people, local people that were like, had connections with VJ, were all coming up to me and saying, "Hope you don't forget VJ Day. Hope you don't forget VJ Day." And I said, we won't, and we haven't. And I'm sure that we're not going to put the big pile on the park for VJ Day, but this would be ample, I think. Again,
Yeah, well, first you've given away the fact you don't have school age children, it's slap bang in the summer holidays.
Right. We could, yeah.
Yeah. So no, genuinely, this is what, and as back to the idea, I think for me, if we're using some of the summer town event money, we make this part of something. I agree, we can't do it something as high key, but I like the idea of this sort of something that marks VJ Day. It is a very important day for many people. But I always say, like, it's remembering VE Day doesn't mean you ignore VJ Day. I named my daughter after my grandfather who fought in the Far East. So it is really important we do. I like the idea of what's being proposed. And I do think we can get more community groups and just have something that maybe lasts Friday and into Saturday a little bit. We can use the market space or something like that and make it part of the Summertown event. That would be my starter for 10 as a sort of idea, but I'm willing to listen to others and definitely agree with all of Vic's other comments, apart from your lack of knowledge of school holidays.
How many kids? Well, I have, but they're still not more.
Just so I'm making sure that I'm correct here, am I reading the room where you are saying that the summer event and VJ Day potentially can be combined, thus increasing the budget, thus making perhaps the summer event the follow-on to VJ Day, almost as
That's definitely my suggestion, I think.
primary title, and then we create stuff off the back of that to follow on?
That would certainly be my suggestion. I think lots of views.
And I support Doug if it goes wrong.
Potential option, yeah.
Just get it all on one go.
I think we just got to be candid what David believes we can deliver, you know. I think, I would say reading the room, we want to do something for EJ Day. So that's a mark. We have previously indicated we would like to do a summer event of some kind. Now, whether that happens to be both, then you will hopefully come back and say, it's got to be that. Or you'll say, we'll do that, but we'll just do another little one, something like that. But I think you've got to guide us what you think you can deliver, because I'm conscious of your capacity in your team.
This is really helpful because it now allows me to go away and look at an alternative option that I didn't know was available. So that's good.
Just
Thanks.
right.
Suggestions and Nicholas.
So that the recommendation of it was to agree in principle to enhance this year's VJ Day commemorations to reflect the significance of the 80th anniversary while remaining within the allocated budget of £1,000.
It's the summer budget.
Plus the summer budget. Yeah. Okay. Do we need a? No,
No.
we don't. Okay. Right, 28-25, an update on community groups, to receive an update on the community group since the last meeting. Over to you, Alan.
I think I have written to the councils in the individual capacity. I was actually quite angry when I wrote it, so I do apologise if that came through. I think really what the lessons learned from that are set out in point 4 of my report. I think there was under no circumstances when we had the below the line discussion at the last meeting, there was a report tabled which clearly set out the activities, the fact that the council would support all the community groups going forward and what it expected from that. So when it came out, and we only found this out by accident at the very last minute, that message had not been portrayed to the groups, I was initially quite shocked and then actually very angry afterwards. And like I say, I did write to the councillors with a little bit of anger in my typewriting. I think what we have to look back at is I don't think we can undo any of this. That I think all the community groups have disappeared. Certainly the Crafters group is not coming back, from my understanding. And it's really just look at the lessons learned. And we have to bank that as officers. We have to own relationships as a council. We cannot allow individuals to own relationships. I think we need to improve our post-meeting communication. And I think we also have to reinforce as a management team that when we have discussions below the line, they are confidential. They are not to be discussed, and they're not, and the anticipation of what the committee is going to decide is not up for discussion with third parties. Otherwise, what's the point of having below the line? So it's really just the recommendations that we've made. It's really to put in place these procedures to learn from those lessons that have been quite costly from, I think, a reputational perspective as much as anything else.
Matt.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. I'm time conscious to sort of fly through it. You are right, the council needs to own our relationships. It's not ex-staff members thing, ex-staff members group, it's the council thing. X is in the letter, not X is in father. XYZ council members thing. Yeah, we do need to formally communicate as soon as possible. Regarding the leaking of discussions and your conclusion, I think if possible, could that be something that you take as an agenda item to corporate services? Because I think that is something we need to have a much wider discussion about whether we, as a corporate services committee, we have all staff read the confidentiality policy we have or things like that. I think it's more of a, I'm really upset that this happened. I think you're more upset than all of us combined in your email. But it's really disheartening to see this. We sat here, we debated for quite a while. We deferred it so we could, months ago, so we could come with a solution. We had solutions. We worked really hard to get it, and someone has absolutely just thrown that away. But I think if we're discussing the how we go forward with below the line items of staff leaking discussions, I think we need to do that on corporate services as well as this committee. If that's okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
fine. Stuart,
Yeah, I'll just briefly, I think you're right, Matt, that when things are below the line, obviously they need to be below, but if the outcome has been decided, then it needs to be communicated to both staff and councillors, because I think some of our councillors were caught on the hop in this respect, not knowing what had been decided. So I think it's that communication aspect I think we need to strengthen.
So you're happy with the recommendation?
yeah, so,
Just
yeah.
to add corporate services to it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So the recommendation is to put in place the procedures to ensure that councillors, officers and third parties are communicated decisions in a timely manner after council and committee resolutions, and that we bring this to corporate services. Yeah, the whole thing, or just
I think just
the
the
this one, isn't it? C,
confidentiality.
about confidentiality comes back to corporate services to be discussed. Yeah. Okay, so Matt, seconder. All in agreement?
Thanks to you as well, Annie, for adding this to the agenda so we can have it on record that we absolutely supported them at the last meeting.
Yeah, I
Thank you.
that was quite important that was public, that we did definitely support them. Also, the 29-25 exclusion of press to consider resolving that pursuant to the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960, the press and public be excluded for any remaining items of business on the grounds that publicity would be prejudicial to the public interest by reason of the confidential nature of this business to be discussed. So, do we want to exclude the press and public?
Yeah.
Yep. Not that we've got it. Right, lovely. So, third